Alright, so what we got here is a brand new PlayStation 4 controller that we're going to be putting our rose red soft touch PS4 controller shell onto. So if you guys are purchasing just the shell, that's what you'll get right there. It'll come to you bubble wrapped and a little baggy. Otherwise, if you are purchasing the controller to go with it so that we can install the shell, this is the PS4 controller that we would be using to install the shell onto. So first thing you're going to need is a small Phillips screwdriver. There's 4 screws on the back of the controller that you need to take out. One, two, three, 4. The screwdriver's nothing special. It's just a small Phillips head screwdriver. If you've ever bought a small screwdriver kit for maybe PC work, you probably have one in there that fits. Otherwise, you could also get one from the hardware store. Nothing special about it. Just kind of got to figure out which size will fit into your screws in the back of the controller. Um, when you're taking these screws out, they are small and they aren't the strongest, so it's a good idea to apply a little bit of down pressure so that that screwdriver sits in those screws and you don't run the risk of stripping them. If you do strip a screw before you get it out, it's kind of a hassle, and you can't really get it out at that point. This type of screwdriver I have here, the butt of it has a swivel point, so I'm actually able to push down with it on the palm of my hand, and then I'll simultaneously turn it so I can keep that downward pressure while I take the screws out. Um, so we're going to get this last screw out here, and then we'll be moving on to taking the shell off of the controller itself. So on the new shell that you're going to get, you can see it has these tabs on the sides. There's also 2 tabs there at the bottom of the controller. Those are just kind of tension fit on the side. You can see the controller itself is wanting to pull away from the bottom where the screws were, but the sides aren't letting it. So first thing you want to do is get something flat, screwdriver, if you got a little pry bar, kind of get under where the joysticks are, and you're going to start from the bottom and just work your way up. So it just takes a little doing. You can see they are just let free. Not too difficult down there. The sides you kind of just pry apart from the bottom up. I would say this is probably the second hardest part of the whole job, just because sometimes these tabs can be a little bit finicky and they don't want to let loose, and obviously you don't want to bust your controller. But there you see it let loose. Um, Once you get it apart, you don't just want to rip it apart. You see there's that ribbon cable there that actually connects the back of the controller to the actual motherboard of the controller itself. Just slides right in there. You know, these controllers are tough, but these parts in them are small, so just take your time. Don't yank on it, just kind of pull it out. I get a little pliers here. I'm just able to grab it right at the base and just kind of pop it out. There you go. It's let loose. So the back plate we are going to keep. We're going to be reusing that, so just set that off to the side for now. All the guts are in the main front plate of this PS4 controller. So that gray box in the back is actually your battery. You're gonna want to take that off just because it makes it easy. Otherwise, it's kind of flopping around. So kind of get on the white there. You see, I kind of got on the wire. That's not what you want to do. You want to grab a hold of the actual white plastic part, so you don't run the risk of pulling the wires out of there. And just again, take your time. Not too difficult. Just pull it out. Put that off to the side. So now we're getting a little deeper in here. You can see there's still one more screw that keeps the faceplate on. So again, same size screw as the other one. So get your screwdriver in there, back it off. Guys, one thing to mention, I know it looks like I'm tightening these screws, but they're coming out. It's because I got my camera flipped, so it's right side up for you. So it's a mirrored image. That's why it looks like they should be tightening when they are actually loosening. So the faceplate's now free, but there still is one more ribbon piece. I think the black little case that holds the battery falls off here. That's not a big deal. Just let that go off to the side. It just kind of lays in there. And you can see that ribbon right there that goes up from the front touchpad onto the motherboard. There's actually a blue tab right on there to grab. Just pull that back, let loose, kind of just falls through a little channel it's got in there. It can get caught, that blue part sticks out, so just kind of tuck it in and slide it back, and then that should let it all come free. And then there we go. So we got the kind of the main guts of the controller. there, and then the old faceplate. Um, so on these PS4 controllers, the buttons actually sit in the faceplate and they make contact with the motherboard. So you just gotta take those out and transfer them. So we're gonna start with the PS4 button on the bottom here. There's just a little rubber piece that keeps it in place. You take your finger behind it, pop it right out. Um, all these buttons have little grooves in them so that you can't put it in the wrong way. So you just kind of gotta set it on there, twist it a little bit. It can be tricky. I got pretty big fingers, so it can be tough for me to get them in there, as you can see. So just pull it out, put it back in, kind of just set it in there best you can, and you'll know when it fits in because it'll actually fall down in there. So there it's in. I'm gonna put the little rubber piece right back on it so it doesn't fall out while I'm doing the other pieces. And again, guys, none of this is difficult. It's not too hard. It just takes time. Just make sure you got stuff lined up where it was. Make sure you take note of um, where it came off of, and things like that. So that's in. There you go, front view of it. Now we're going to move on to the actual buttons of the controller, the X, circle, square, and triangle. So you take the little rubber gasket off the back, which keeps it in place, and then just flip it over, and they all fall out. There you go. Again, you know, you obviously probably know what buttons go where, but just double check that you got the right ones. And again, these have little tabs on them too, to where they won't sit in unless you got them right. So I'm trying to show you there. I got it in wrong, and it won't kind of set in there. And you give it a little twist and line up those little notches, and there it seats itself nice and in deep in the hole there. So just go around and put the three of them in, and you'll move on to the D-pad next. All right, so we got all four buttons in. Now we're going to place that rubber gasket back on. And again, you kind of push it down in place. You'll feel it when it goes down. It's got a little channel that it locks into. And then there, that one's down. Next is the D-pad. Much easier, much quicker. Just one piece, flip it over. It falls out. And then you just take that and you slide it in to the spot there, put that rubber gasket back on the back. Same thing as the other side. It's got a little groove that it sits in, and you'll kind of feel it when it gets pushed all the way down in there. There you go. So then the last thing we got is the touchpad on the front. Sorry, I'm kind of out of the camera there. Here we go. You're going to want to actually pull it back, like to the back of the controller, and kind of twist and pull it out. Don't push it out the front. It's not designed to go out the front. And to put it in, you kind of put it underneath that groove and then push it down, and there it sits in the front. Make sure that that tab is in front of that bar going across, because it has to be able to feed back up through that channel that it came out of. This next part, guys, it is the most difficult part of the whole process. Getting that ribbon cable up through that hole is very difficult. You don't have a lot of room to work with. Um, you can see there, so that's not what you want to do. It's not through that channel. um, and it won't. If you tried to pull on that, it wouldn't have enough slack to make it up and around, and it's getting pinched in there. So you can see there, you got to make sure you're in back of it. I struggle with this for a few seconds here. Like I said, it is the toughest part, but eventually you get it. I try a few different things here. I thought maybe if we took the touchpad off the front and fed it in first, we could then feed it in there, but it's not the case. Does not work like that. You just got to take your time, feed it up through that channel. All right, and there we go. You see, we finally got it through. So it just takes time. I use the pliers now to slide it back in. I grab the blue tab. Like I said, I got kind of fat fingers, so it's tough for me to grab that. But just grab it with the blue tab, and then boom, slides right back in. So there you go. Now you got the faceplate on, all the buttons in place where they're supposed to be, and we can start to put this thing back together, working backwards now. So first thing you want to do is put that black plate back on. It's got little pins, so it sits right in there. It can only go in one way. Some people are doing that wrong. And then that screw, the silver screw, you need to put in. And guys, that's one thing to note. So all the other screws are black, but the one silver screw is the screw for the battery plate. So that's a good way to remember that. And then you just screw it in. Another thing to keep in mind is these shells, unless we have installed it for you already and you're switching it out to something new again, they haven't been screwed into yet. So they're kind of, new holes. So it might be a little tougher to screw the screws back in than it was to take out, just because you're kind of making the threads as you go. So they're hooked up the battery back in. Last thing to do is put that ribbon back together. I think I try with my fingers, and again I go back to the pliers just because it's hard for me to hold it up and grab it with my fingers and have enough, space in there to actually push it down. Sorry that you can't really see, but no really way around it. The faceplate's going on, so just put it right back where it was. It's just a little pin slot, and push it in, and then you're good to go. So there we got it in, and now we're just going to plate this back on. So just kind of line it up. Again, it only goes one way. Just kind of snap it together. I work around my way around from the top to the bottom, and it just kind of fits together. And if you see any cracks, just give it a little squeeze where the cracks might be. So I got one there. I just push it together, and there it goes away. So it's all snapped in. The last thing to do is just put the 4 screws back in. And there you have it. Our new faceplate from 3D Design Bros is installed. Um, if you were ordering this from us with the new controller, we would then box it up back in the original packaging, and send it out to you. Otherwise, if you're doing this on your own, you should be all set. Put your old faceplate off to the side in case you ever want to go back. But otherwise, enjoy your new soft touch or any style faceplate that you've purchased from us.